thing that has lasted throughout the ages through all these iterations of live storytelling or fine art storytelling with plays and radio, it's the people that you're pointing the camera at.
Yes.
So that was the thing that I was trying to protect most during production, was making sure that these actors were represented and had the space to do their thing.
Get Reelisms Podcast.
I am Adam Chase Reddy.
And I am Christine Chen. And surprise, we're both filmmakers.
We get into it by sharing secrets, advice, and gossip in filmmaking.
We even get our other filmmaking friends to share theirs too.
So please, everybody, join us for an
ode to filmmaking.
And I'm Christine Chen, and I'm so excited to invite our guest, Jon Vallet. Would you like to introduce yourself and what you do and all the things, please?
You got a French spin with that. I love it.
Yes. Thank you for having me here. I am Jon Vallet and directed a new movie called American Dollhouse, based here in Austin, Texas. Yeah, and we just kicked off our festival run. So we had our world premiere at South by Southwest a couple weeks ago.
Yes, and I've been seeing all the photos and having major FOMO because I love South by Southwest. And what stood out to me was so many of my friends that I've worked with in the industry, cut my teeth with in Austin, were part of this project. So I think that was the most exciting, was seeing everybody being a part of it. So it was like a big film family. And then getting to watch it was awesome. What a great film you had, Jon. It was so fun to watch it. And I guess to start off, like, how did you come up with the subject matter? Like, where did the birth of this film come from? Did it start off with the subject of the dollhouse, or like what was the seed of conception?
It was both wanting to really explore the slasher genre and play within that sandbox, as it were. And so there's that part of it, how that genre is giving to the filmmaking process. But I think emotionally, what really drove me was this strange time that we live in, where even going outside just to get groceries or commute or go for walks is starting to feel strange in this country. In broad daylight, these places that sort of felt safe to be and welcoming kind of now feel a little scary. And I think there's a lot of terror going on in these spaces that are supposed to be our home and in our streets and our sidewalks. And I know that lots of people have experienced this forever in this country. And I just think that there's a particularity to it right now where it all just seems so obvious, and yet everyone's just going about their daily routines. And so some kind of strange dissonance that me and I think a lot of people have been feeling for the last 5 to 10 years. So I think that motivated a lot of just the location and the characters and the dilemma, and all of that fed this structure of the slasher genre that I was very into at the moment. So that's kind of where it came from. And then the characters just present themselves in various ways. I had a recent neighbor who I loved, and she was like a bright spot of my day. And every time I would leave my house or I'd come home from work, she would just always happen to be outside and wanting to chit chat. And I got a big kick out of it because I grew up in the country on a farm. And so neighbors are still the fun thing for me. And so I got such a kick out of her. But then in the context of this project, I started to imagine what would be the nightmare version of that. And then trying to find that duality of things that are present as welcoming and good on the surface, but then underneath are actually horrifying. And that's where this central antagonist character came from, is like, I wanted to show Barbie, American Pie, just like blonde-haired, blue-eyed, Norman Rockwell, everything's fine, but then twist it into sort of this version of America that I think is very, like I said, obvious, but has always been there. And I think the further we go down this road of strange times, the more it feels to me that it's always been there and we've always been like this. And there's just some kind of weird hyper reality happening where it's both obvious and insidious at the same time.
Before I get too ahead of myself, I forgot to ask you, could you give a quick log line about what American
Yeah.
Dollhouse is, just in
Yeah.
case a lot of people out there don't know what it is, and I just assumed just because I already watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty minimalist. It's about a woman who inherits her childhood home after her estranged mother passes away. And throughout the film, we understand the contours of their relationship and her rough childhood that she had. And so on the surface, this house is like a get out of jail free card for her. She's getting to start over and escape all of her debt and crisis in the city to move into this free home. But then you realize that this home is actually like breaking in half. It's falling apart. People probably shouldn't be living there. And she's in denial of the situation, desperately trying to escape this past of hers. Meanwhile, there is this crazy neighbor that almost looks like her. It's a doppelganger situation. And she's very entranced by the new shiny object that has moved to the small town and becomes increasingly obsessed with this main character of ours, and hijinks ensue and it gets cuckoo. So it's just a crazy neighbor slasher film.
Yeah.
It takes place during Christmas, most of it in broad daylight on a beautiful street. And yeah, it gets insane towards the back half.
I like that. My other question is, when we think slasher, what would you say is like the epitome of slasher? Do you think like tone wise, it's like a little bit of comedy? Is it because it's not like straight horror, like you're supposed to be super stressed out and scared. I feel like it dances on. There's moments where it's funny, yeah, like in your mind,
yeah,
it's supposed to be,
yeah. Yeah, I think most of the touch points that I'm drawing from with slashers have that element in them. There is a comic edge or sort of a satire to them.
Yeah.
But in particular, for my money, my favorite has always been Psycho. And those kind of early slasher films before the big 80s boom, which they referred to as like the proto-slasher era, before they knew what slashers were. So you have stuff like Psycho or Peeping Tom, Black Christmas, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, these slashers that they're not really about the body count, not really about like how many different creative ways can we kill people. They're way more character driven and situation based. And the thing that really interested me is that although so many of these movies, and I would even throw in the original John Carpenter Halloween movie, but that was what kind of kicked off this crazy 80s slasher boom of kill. And it's more about the violence. But what interested me was that structurally, these movies are so identical. If you blur your eyes and look at them, they're the same form over and over again. But what they provide is this interesting, unique snapshot of the time that they were made in. Mm-hmm. And I love that kind of historical through line that we get now. These movies are 60 years old or more. And I wanted to experiment with, if I just repeat these forms and I deliver these tropes and conventions that horror fans love, and I love, not really trying to reinvent anything, but just experiment with, will that happen with our movie? If we apply modern concerns and modern sensibilities and really giving it over to the actors to find the emotional truth themselves versus trying to tell them what to do. And hopefully you do end up with this snapshot of life in the 2020s in America. Because you would look at Psycho and Black Christmas and you're not going to think those are the same movies, but structurally, almost beat for beat, they follow the same moves.
Sure.
But each one really presents a very different time in America.
Yeah.
And those particular concerns. I think Psycho has a lot to do with women's liberation and finding autonomy underneath the tutelage of patriarchy, right? Where she's just a secretary for these kind of loud, brash men, and she gets hers. Mm-hmm. She's, I'm gonna take control of my life. Mm-hmm. And then the same thing with Black Christmas. It's really this allegory about abortion and freedom of choice. So I kind of wanted to see what would happen if I just took that same approach to life in 2025.
Yeah. Especially having it updated and getting your point across with like how these characters, not necessarily come back to where they were, but grown from where they were. And I feel like, yeah, you're right. That sort of just gets lost in a lot of those slashers, especially in the 80s too. But I was even thinking more towards the night, like Wes Craven's, like Scream and stuff like that, where it just feels a little too over the top and a little too hokey. It's just still fun. Make no mistake, it's still fun, other than the latter half of Scream movies. But, you know, my point is that it didn't go. What I appreciate about American Dollhouse is that it didn't go that route of super hokey and super making fun of itself almost. It embodied what a true slasher is supposed to be. And even though it is terrifying, it is still fucking hilarious, especially the killer too. The killer, I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah,
Kelsey, Kelsey really did a great job.
She killed it. She was awesome. She was amazing. And very great flashback scenes too, by the way. That was awesome. That because you can really, it's really easy to fuck up flashbacks, I feel. And yeah, that to keep it contained with with everything, you'll see it when y'all see it. But yeah, it was very nice. It was very cool for sure. No question. Just wanted to make that statement.
So,
no, I appreciate that. It's hard to pull that off. Yeah.
Just because this is educational podcast, what do you think? What would you say the structure is for these slashers that you identified? What for you is the structure?
Oh boy, it's nothing revelatory. It's a 3-act structure. There's Dark Night of the Soul. It follows that kind of Robert McKee save the cat sort of formula, but I think they're, without getting in the minds of these writers, I think that these things have to, when they're good and when they're successful, they have to operate as a drama first. And there has to be this clear metaphor that you're working with for the character's drama, right? So in this case, it's not to get too woo about it, but like kind of about restorative nostalgia or trying to rewrite our history by denying the things that happened to us in our childhoods or trying to run away from your past. So if that's the theme, then the metaphor for the drama then is the childhood home. And hopefully in modern day America, that makes sense of just how hard home ownership is now and just the cost of living, these kind of things that we took for granted. And we're still trying to pretend like the American dream is alive and well. Definitively not. And so I think for me, it was really about serving that dramatic metaphor first and foremost. It's the same thing with, like I said, with Black Christmas. It's you're setting it inside this kind of
family
warm
theme.
Yeah, and they're in a sorority and they're surrounded by these very liberal women that are loud and opinionated, and they're wild spectrum of characters. Even they're like, I don't know what you would call it, the mother of the den that kind of like watches over them and is the conduit, the liaison to the university that they're going to. She's wild and she's drinking with them, and it's just such a safe place for them, and they're thriving. And then this like male men characters start trying to poke their way into this like warm, this like womb that these women are safe in. And so if you think about the plot of her like considering getting an abortion, and then her boyfriend trying to stop her and these men trying to stop her from doing this. And movie's coming out right after Roe v. Wade. So like that metaphor is so strong and obvious to me. So with American Dollhouse, the metaphor is the childhood home, right? Yeah. And so when those dramatic present themselves, then you ask yourself, like, how do you physically manifest that through a violent character and like action and something physical? The movie is like very cerebral, and like you pointed out, there's these flashbacks and there's these dream sequences and a pretty robust sound design where
the sound
is great.
The sound and the music. I loved the music so much. Ashley, I really loved I think the music really shaped the overall story and feel and vibe of the film. But it felt very
Absolutely.
Austin and very
Yeah.
like,
It does feel Austin.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was.
Yeah.
I thought that was a great choice. Did you have a lot of input into the actual composing of everything? Did you already have a pretty good thought in mind of how you wanted the soundtrack to emulate?
Yes and no. So I did the score with my buddy Eric Gatling for my first film. And it was very synth driven and simplistic. We were going for this John Carpenter kind of vibe. And then I was planning on doing it again for this film, Dollhouse. But my sound designer buddy, Richard Hamilton, who I work with a lot, and he's the best. He worked on Pizzagate and my first film and this second one. But I don't know about you, but when you go through a professional sound design component, I'm used to doing all that stuff myself. But for my first film, when I went through that process in post-production, it was like mind-blowing how useful sound can be with storytelling.
100%.
And so the MO with the second film was like, get him involved as soon as possible so that I'm setting him up for the best work that he can do. And so I let him see early drafts of the script.
Yeah.
And he then got back to me and he's, hey man, I know you've probably got your music figured out, but I've been doing a lot of scoring on the side, like personally, and reading your script was it just aligned so much with where I'm at. Can I send you some demos I've been working on?
That's cool.
Over. Yeah. And they were like what you hear in the movie, like some of the main tracks in the movie are actually those demos that he sent
That's so
over.
cool.
Because it was so on point.
Yeah.
And
that's awesome.
when you're presented with that, you don't get in the way of it.
Yeah.
He's responding genuinely just from the script.
The material,
in this highly emotional thing with music.
Yeah.
So I was like, go for it, dude.
Heck
spread your wings.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So that's where that came from.
No, you nailed it with that sound design, especially with horror genres and stuff, how much the sound design. I was mind blown too for the process of making Ursley, how much you can fix with sound design. It's crazy. I think that's what I learned the most doing Ursley was how much you can just solve story wise with sound design as well. And so that's a good segue as to what was that one of the things that you feel like you took from your last film that you inject? What other lessons that you were able to take from your last film into this film going forward that you felt made you stronger this time around?
So many things. I could talk to the end of time about that because as making stuff, getting something done, putting it in front of an audience, you learn more in that process than any book or any class or any piece of advice can give you. It's like the actual doing of it and putting yourself through that is revelatory. But to be specific, I found that I think where I was most animated and where I was most inspired on my first film was working with the actors. And it's, again, like with sound and acting, it just all seems so obvious now. With independent filmmaking, you can get really overly focused on the shots and the camera.
Yes.
And I realized that I have this incredible cinematographer who will not lead me astray.
Yeah,
and in my worst moments, I can just totally let him drive. And I know that he will stick the landing on the visuals. And you identify the visuals in the screenplay. So knowing that's a given and that he and I can do that together, the big thing I tried to do with Dollhouse was more so than spectacle or more than concepts or high concepts and strange ideas. The main focus for me was how do I make sure that I'm doing something that will live and die with the actors and will force us to serve the performances and these actors that will eventually get in front of the camera and perform these lines. Yeah. Because I think that was like a huge reward after my first film was like just seeing the power of these actors in such a strange concept. It's a hard sell, my first movie, but these actors really gave me a lot of faith that if I trust that process and if I only look for truth in their performances and make sure they're getting there and have the space to do that. I think at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, more than a creative kill, more than how something is technically achieved. It's the thing that has lasted throughout the ages through all these iterations of live storytelling or fine art storytelling with plays and radio. It's like, it's the people that you're pointing the camera at.
Yes.
So that was the thing that I was trying to protect most during production, was making sure that these actors were represented and had the space to do their thing. Not necessarily treating them like royalty, because it wasn't exactly the most comfortable production, pretty cold, and that house didn't have heating.
Wait, when did you shoot this?
We shot it in December of 2024.
Okay.
So in Texas, it's not deadly cold, but it was cold enough.
But it can get cold, yeah.
How many days was it?
Principal photography was 15 days. And
Okay,
then
not bad. Okay,
That's not
15.
bad.
there were a few
Not
days
bad at all.
here and there for pickups.
Not
Yeah.
bad at
Okay.
all.
Yeah.
Okay, 15. Not bad.
So highly planned. Yeah, we were booked.
Yeah, I was about to say
Nice.
everything was probably rigid as hell.
I know Michelle Millett is a very good AD, so yes.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Very
He's a
good.
Oh,
dynamo.
Michelle first AD? Oh, that
Yeah.
I missed that. Oh, that's cool. Right on.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I like. Yeah,
When
she's
I
great.
say I know the crew, I know the crew. I looked
Yeah.
at it, I was like, oh yes. Hoy,
Oh, yeah.
Peter. I was like, know everybody. Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
great.
That's cool.
And I guess
very
as a
cool.
follow-up to that question, now that you're talking about crew, I think it's very important for people to realize how much crews are the ones that make the movie, just
Yeah.
like your actors.
100%.
Who you cast as your lead actor, it's just as important as who your focus puller is.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
totally.
like
Yes.
making sure that you're creating something to get these people interested and give them something that's worthwhile to show up to, because they will show up. They're hard workers. But if they're shooting something boring, or if they feel like they're being abused and you're going too long on the days, like
It'll show up.
you're shooting yourself in the foot. It doesn't matter how many good ideas I have or how loud my voice can be or whatever the hell people think a director is. It's if your crew is not at their best, your casting crew, then you're kind of screwed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, it's an incredible crew. I adore them, love them to
yeah,
death.
I
Like, I
saw it.
made
I
this
was like-
movie.
Yeah, I was like, that's a good crew. Yeah, I saw it. I was like, that is a good. Yeah, Taylor, we talked about in the previous podcast, actually. So Taylor and I have also done 2 projects. Yeah, so I shot 2 shorts with him, Shakespeare in the Range. I was saying, I had a recent photo that just got into a behind the scene photo that Taylor's in. So I just talked about Taylor. He's one of my top favorite Austin cinematographers as well. So good
He's
history.
such a magician.
He's
Yes.
amazing. Yeah, he's amazing. And the last person I worked with in Austin was Taylor, actually, on a commercial. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got to see good old Taylor. So that was nice to see his work and be like, damn, still very good, still amazing.
Yeah,
So-
I think it's maybe his best work, because it's like we had a pretty small lighting package. We were really leaning into the natural light of it all, and then
Did
these
you guys
long
use
takes.
his camera and his cooks?
No, we shot on a Sony Venice 1 that we
Okay.
got from a local production house, Swing Productions,
Swing,
which is
cool. Yeah, I know.
a
Swing.
great little workhorse production company.
Nice.
I used to work there, and so I knew they had this camera. And I had recently started shooting commercials with the Venice, and just, I don't know, it's kind of silly. Like I said, it's the cameras, it's what you do with the camera. It's not so much the brand, but I do love those Sony cameras for some reason. There's something really cool
The low
about
light,
them. But
I think
Yes.
capacity. Yeah.
yes,
For
with
cheaper.
this natural light thing, it was so useful. And then we shot, mostly the nano primes were our main lenses. I think, yeah, there was something on either end. Our widest and our longest lens was something else, but I could be flopping that, though. I do forget that a lot, which is stupid, but whatever. Who cares? Yeah, and that giant sensor on the Venice kind of gave it this medium format feel. And since the movie was so
Yeah.
much about photographs and
Yes.
the lies that a photograph, everybody's always, a picture says 1,000 words, and it's yeah, but those 1,000 words may be completely false.
Yeah.
And so that's the idea with that camera, and like these more static shots and long takes, was trying to create the sense of you're watching a moving photograph, which is sounds obvious when you say it, but
That makes sense. Yeah, I was wondering why it was shot that, or you guys chose the. Yeah.
That aspect, the 4:3 aspect ratio, very boxy, shallow depth of field.
That makes sense.
Again, our focus pullers, our camera team was on point to keep up with that because it was just like they had inches to deal with because it was so shallow.
Yeah.
You know?
That was awesome. What was the hardest thing for you on the whole shoot? What are your top 3 moments that were like, Jesus Christ, that sucked? Or what went wrong? I always love knowing these things.
Your deepest, darkest trauma, if you will.
What was your trauma on set?
It's hard to say, right? Because everything is a potential trauma, and
Everything was traumatic.
Yeah.
Every part
So-
of the set was traumatic. Oh, great.
if you go in knowing that that's the case, then that becomes part of the creative expression and not a means or not something to be avoided. Like it's just so hard to make a movie, and I really tried to change my perspective on all these things that make me lose my hair and go gray and look at them as parts of the expression.
Yeah.
How you manage in and out times and the resources that you give your team is just as important as the lens that you choose.
Sure.
And I think a lot of people view the former as a necessary evil or a necessary complication. And it's not really. That's as important as everything else. And so that said, the hardest thing was definitely creating the third act. And that it was a fully built set. Everything else was on location, and we picked those locations for a reason. And the idea was like, give my art team as little to do for the first 3/4 of the movie.
Right.
Just dress it and make it seem intentional so that they have all the time in the world to be working on that third act, which is where we're seeing
there's a
kind of
lot going
nightmare.
on. Yeah.
Yeah. And those boys and girls were burning the midnight oil. The paint
fantastic.
was drying.
It looked really
while we were
good.
shooting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And they showed up and they really gave themselves over to that. And that location was like an hour outside of town. And so when some of the cast wasn't on set, they would go to that set build and they would be painting and they would be putting cobwebs up and dressing the Christmas tree.
It was a group effort. Yeah.
Yeah. One of my besties, Lee Eddy, phenomenal local actor. She was in my first film. I worked with her on her short film. Love her to death. She's a great friend. And I remember visiting the set one day and I walked in and there's Lee cleaning up this set. And I was like, what the hell are you doing here? I didn't know you were coming to help out. And she's, I took the call. There was this clarion call from the artist. So we got to help finish John's set. and so you walk in and it's like, there's Lee Eddy just like helping the set come together. And she's a mama. And so she has bigger and better things to be doing than cleaning up my set and getting it ready for the shoot. But it was
but
like
art always needs help. So
always.
We always need the help.
It's a beautiful thing to watch, but it was very difficult and very tense. Like I said, the paint was literally drying shot to shot, and we were moving the set around and like
hilarious. That's awesome.
Breaking it apart to rebuild it for the next there's a giant wall that kind of bifurcates the whole set, and we were spinning that thing to repurpose it from shot to shot. So it really is, if I were to ever break that whole sequence down, it is a masterclass in independent filmmaking and like what goes into just how many hands are needed to pull off these magic tricks.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we did it.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of our team. We had an incredible art team.
That is awesome. And in 15 days too, with everything in principal photography is very impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. It was nuts, dude. Totally nuts.
I bet. Oh yeah, I bet it was a whirlwind, dude. I felt it probably was like a fever dream from beginning to end. You're just like, what happened? What was it those 15 days?
Yes, and we mostly got to shoot chronologically, so the whole shot.
Oh, that's cool. Okay,
ended on that third
got
act.
it.
And so everybody was in full cuckoo mode and no sleep, and then you step into that third act, and it was like, you know how it is when you spend hours and hours on a dark set, and you're led to believe that it's nighttime.
Oh yeah.
And then you step outside
It's
and it's like, wait a minute, it's broad daylight. Well, first of all,
yeah.
all those daylight shots inside of that house.
Yeah.
We shot at night. So anytime that you're seeing sunlight coming through, it's all fake.
Oh.
And
Oh, wow.
even when the door is
yeah.
opening
Yeah.
like that. So
It's so weird.
yeah, it's very weird to see it now. It's hard to remove myself from that reality of like, it was not daytime when we were shooting that, but
Yeah.
that's Taylor Camero. That's the art team.
I was about to say, shout out to G&E. Yeah. Making it,
we had the
night
best.
for day. That's crazy.
Jesus. Yeah, what was
Yeah.
your schedule like most of the time? Was it like splits? Was it what was it?
We never, I think there was maybe only one overnight,
Okay.
but otherwise it was probably 30%, 40% were splits. And then
Okay.
maybe the rest of it was all daytime.
Okay. And 7.
Because it's for the most part, it's a daytime movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it gets darker sooner at that time of the year.
December,
So we
yeah.
weren't going too crazy into the night. And
So 7 to 7.
like I said, there was even in the writing and the constructing, I was building a schedule while I was writing
Yeah.
to just be,
Wow.
again, it's part of this
Yeah.
philosophy of everything. The schedule, day-to-day schedule is as important as the drama. It
Yeah.
was the philosophy.
Yeah.
And so even though Michelle ended up building that schedule, I was building a mock one just to stay true to this ethos of everything about this process is part of the expression. And so part of that was like, I don't want to do overnights, and we're gonna shoot 10-hour days, and we're really gonna try to not to be lazy, but just like, how do I use my team the best way I can to make sure that they're strong and they're awake when they need to be, but understanding that sometimes they're going to be tired and sometimes working in a fog, and embrace that as one of your paintbrushes in the toolkit. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
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 Are you
It
allowed
doesn't
to?
have to be horrible. Production doesn't have to be horrible. It can be part of the expression.
No, totally.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you
Especially-
allowed to say what your budget was?
I am not. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have been advised by much smarter people to say we were under $100 million. So.
Okay. Yes, I
We were
know.
under $100 million. Listen, we couldn't get a Marvel budget. We had to settle for.
I know, because it's for the sales. Yeah.
Yes, again, and I won't park here for too long because I've been hemming and hawing about it. But even the budget, I have come to realize that I don't think I have ever heard any production say that they had enough money, whether it's a $200 million Marvel movie or a $1,000 music video. You never have enough money. And so, again, this philosophy of like, why can't the budget and the money be part of your expression and not this means to an end or thing that you just have to suffer through? And so I was, again, as I'm building the schedule while I'm writing the script, I'm thinking about how much this is going to cost. And I knew that I'm going to have on average 17 people as my crew a day and a few actors a day, and thinking about the money that we had on hand and what we would have to raise later, and sequencing it all out that way so that we're never really chasing money or fighting, like having to make massive compromises because even though you set a budget, money kind of finds a way to infiltrate other departments where it needs to. And so your budget is a living organism that changes throughout the production. Yeah. Just knowing that as a given, it doesn't have to be this traumatic thing. And so to that, I'm like, there's a version of this movie that could have been shot for a small amount of money, 5 figures, 6 figures, or 7 figures. It's all about writing something that isn't going to be broken by a budget. Regardless of where you fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the answer to all your questions is just throw money at it. You know?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm assuming a lot of it went into the special effects and the art.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of it went to art. The special effects were relatively simplistic. I like practical effects, and given the speed that we were moving at, they couldn't be effects that required massive resets. So again, while I'm writing, I'm thinking about old school techniques that have worked since the dawn of time.
Yes.
And working them in. And so with some clever camera angles, quick editing, we were able to pull pull those effects off pretty simplistically. And on top of that, my hair and makeup person I use, Rachel James, she's also an incredibly talented special effects artist. She's doing all the hair and makeup, and she does glam stuff for weddings. She does it all, but she can also work with fake blood pretty well. Yeah. And then there's one very expensive effect in the movie, which we will not discuss because it's a spoiler, but that one was that was a pretty massive undertaking. And that was where I leaned on my buddy, Jason Vines and Jennifer Briner.
Vines!
Yes. Old Vinesy and we go back, and that's something I try to budget into these movies or projects that are special effects heavy, is like there's usually one day where we blow out the budget a little bit, a big punch.
Yeah.
That in my first film, The Pizzagate Massacre, the big one was the Lizard Man. Yeah. That makeup was expensive, and the whole day was wrapped around that moment. And it's it's only going to be, it's a very short moment in the movie. Yeah. But it does it delivers a pretty big punch.
Yeah, it's same. Mine was all dedicated to the mermaid, and it's just, if that doesn't work, then the whole thing falls apart. So you have to and then I had this conversation with a filmmaker who was about to do their first big horror film, and they were asking so how do you budget for things? I was like, there's certain things you can't compromise on, and so just know what those things are so that you can budget for that and know that you have to compromise on other things, because you cannot there's certain things you just can't, because that's what determines the rest of your film basically.
And a lot of people think that you have to have giant spectacles. Some people read this script and they were like, oh, it's kind of simplistic. Are you sure you don't want to do bigger moments for each one of these horror moments? It's like, no,
because it doesn't service the story. Why do it?
Yeah. The only thing that matters is you can show the most insane, crazy thing happening to a character, but if you don't care about that character, it doesn't. So the main focus was you hopefully care or feel for these characters when things are happening to them, regardless of how big or bad or glorious the effect is.
Yeah. I did have one question though. You mentioned that you had to match the writing with the schedule. How different was the script from before you shot it to when you y'all wrapped and it's now being handed off to the editing floor?
It's not. If you just look at the script, it's not wildly different. We followed it pretty closely because I'm also an editor, and so
you were editing. You had the entire timeline in your brain, just like Christine.
Yeah, and so we didn't really overshoot. You mostly see everything that we shot. There's tail ends of the scenes that kind of got cut out and some sort of lapsing within, but every scene that's in the movie is pretty much there on camera. Where things changed was, like I said, with letting the actors find their own intention and then letting that sort of dictate some performances downstream or how we would shoot things later.
And there were major influences in the dialogue too. Were they?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because sometimes I write stuff that's very specific and it has to be, you kind of have to say the specific words. There's a certain music that has to be achieved. This was the opposite. I told them, I was like, change the lines as much as you want.
Interesting. That's
what
awesome.
We are trying to define is what is the truthful desire? What is the want? What do these characters want in the scene? This dialogue is a blueprint, but achieve
get the point of the
desire.
It's more the meaning behind the words than the actual words itself.
So you really let them be in the driver's seat, with your actors, and not just your cast, but also your crew, and even all the way to your composer. Just be just do your own thing. You do the same thing with your actors, then, right? You're there as the mediator, I guess, the moderator of the story.
Yeah, as much as possible, right? Yeah. And I don't know if they would say that.
Sure.
Because like I said, I am writing this thinking of an edit, and it's very specifically, the shot structure and composition is very defined. So, I'm sure there's a version of this that seems very controlling and detail oriented like that. Okay. But I try to look for the spaces where you can let go and let your crew make the movie and let your cast tell the story. And then I'm just there trying to keep track of the intention of the material and what I perceive to be the truth of the matter, and then let that dictate whether I say yes or no, versus trying to hold on to some preconceived idea of the vision. I think that's another thing filmmakers get really, especially like
attached.
independent.
Oh, I worked with a lot of filmmakers like that. Very attached.
Yeah, I have as an AD, that's one of my big pet peeves that I often coach or teach about is, hey, don't get too attached, because then you can't pivot when things go wrong, and things always go wrong. And that's right. Yeah, I always say that the best filmmakers are the ones that know their material so well that no matter how chaotic and things are thrown your way and how wrong they go, because they can still tell the story that they want to tell, even if they have to pivot. I think that's the best.
Yeah, or
that's
weave.
I think that's the telltale of at least an experienced director.
Yeah, and you can have faith that, like, I think vision is inherent, and I think vision is character, and like your vision will be there for better or worse. And so don't think of it as this thing that needs to be achieved. It's like you are the conduit of the vision, and as long as you're there and earnestly responding to the need to pivot or the desires of your collaborators, it's like then your vision will come through.
Yes, if you can make a decision. As long as you're able to make a decision and communicate that decision in a timely manner.
First AD advice.
Indecision can be character as well too, and that's to your detriment. You know, if indecision is part of your character or your vision.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Speaking of vision, are you working on anything else? Are you working on anything for the future?
Oh yeah. I've got a handful of scripts. One of the benefits of COVID was you could just be writing, and so I've got a mountain of scripts that I'm in love with, and you never know what's going to happen. But I do have one in particular right now that we're really pushing on and trying to get going for the next one, and it's a creature feature. It's a monster.
Oh, I love it.
I'm pretty excited about that. I love American Werewolf in London is one of my favorite films.
Yeah.
I love Frankenstein. I love monsters and Godzilla. I mean, holy moly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mumble
So American Dollhouse was part of that cavalcade, a mountain of scripts during COVID as well?
Yeah.
So you're just kind of like plucking them from the stack, essentially.
Yeah. And I was actually trying to get this monster movie made first, and it didn't go.
Okay.
And so we had financing raised partially for this movie. And fortunately, to my benefit, one of these investors who then became the lead producer on American Dollhouse was like, hey, dude, we don't have to shut down the office. We don't have to turn the lights on. Is there something we can make with this money that we do have? And he encouraged me to look into this other stuff. And this is another thing that it's like not being so attached to a particular script is very helpful for filmmaking, I think. And understanding 100%. The big aha moment for me was it doesn't matter what script I'm making. It's just that the filmmaker needs to be making
something.
Yes. And this guy, David Axe, really helped birth this movie in that way of just being like, it doesn't have to be God of the Mountain. It can be something else. And then I was like, I do have this interesting, it's almost like a play, and it's like a slasher film. That sounds cool. Write the script. Let me see it. And if it works, let's go. And I wrote it I had the concept like totally beat it out and outlined for a couple years. But then I put it to script in May of 24, and then we were shooting by December of 24.
It's awesome.
Wow.
So it's fast.
That
Very
was
fast.
Really fast. That's awesome.
Yeah. But just not being so attached to things. And I don't know. Filmmakers spend so much time. Other people talk about it, and they get these ideas in their head about like how things are supposed to go. And that's just not at least for me, that has not been my story. It's never, my plans are never kind of
how it goes.
What drives the day. It's about pivoting and
pivoting.
About surfing.
Yes, it's been pivoting. The same. That's been my journey too. It's just been just lots of pivoting. Well, that roadblock. Let's go that other way now. Okay,
Exactly.
another one. Let's go this other direction. Fuck it. Let's go
Yes.
that way. Let's go up instead. Yeah.
And just trust yourself that you are going to be able to make an interesting decision. Because, like, we're not really doing a lot of original stuff. I would say the only thing original about these projects are, like, the people making them.
Yeah.
Like Haley Loren and Kelsey Probylski, who played our leads, they have never existed before. And they are only that. They're the only people that have lived their experiences. And that's the most unique thing on a set, are the people operating the levers. It's not about, oh, if I could just get this crane to show up on set, or if I could get this kind of dolly shot. It's like, it's all been done before, and that's all. Those are just tools. The most valuable thing, I think, is these living, breathing people that you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
Those are the things that are rare and temporary. So it's like, that's what we should try to capture.
Yeah. That
Yeah,
probably
for
wouldn't
me
have
anyway.
improved. It probably wouldn't have improved even with the crane shot or the dolly shot, when it's really
No.
about the story at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I think so. And regardless of what your support system is, whether it's camera on your shoulder, a tripod, or a techno crane, it's like, how are you going to then dance with the people operating it and the people in front of the camera? It's like way more important, I think. At least that's where my mind is at. And maybe it's out of necessity, because we did not have a techno crane, despite having a $100 million budget.
You did not?
There was
That's
no
crazy.
techno crane.
Now that's not filmmaking at all. Oh, by the way, do you have to go soon, John? Because we've been
You have
at
a
it for a while.
comment. Adam, did you see the comment on Instagram?
No, but I will look at it. Oh, we got a comment by Tim John by Ford. I loved your Pizzagate movie, and I'm looking forward to your next one. Right on.
Hell yeah. It should be out hopefully by the end of this year or early next year.
Woohoo.
It's a Christmas movie, so we're
Aiming.
hoping it gets released around the holidays.
Oh,
But,
yeah.
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 It'll be out, hoping
Christmas
for a
movie.
little
That's awesome.
theatrical run, hopefully. Yeah.
Oh, that was my question. Was it your intention to make it a Christmas movie, or was it just by like happenstance?
Yes, it was. The intention was to do that, but
Okay, fun.
yeah, yes and no. There are some things that kind of influenced that decision, like mostly knowing that we were going to be shooting this movie at that time of the year. But it was scripted in there, and it was like a part of, like, we went into it knowing like this is going to be a Christmas movie, because again, it, like, with that family drama element of it, I grew up in a big family. I have 4 siblings, and so Christmas time is a massive event. And you can't help but feel how stressed out your parents get during that time of the year when there's 5 kids expecting, a Sega Genesis or a bike with pegs.
Yeah.
So it just always was as much as it was a celebration, it was always a stressful time. And I love that duality of Christmas, that on the surface, it is this celebration and there's all this joy and then the joy of childhood, but it's also very problematic and indicative of the greater hypocrisy or lie of America. It's this nuclear capitalist moment of like, let's goose up Q4 and, get all these people to spend money that they've saved all year long on a bunch of crap. But then sometimes that crap defines your childhood and you remember it forever. I still have action figures that I got when I was a kid that I still have to this day, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a strange duality there that was I think worked with the script really well.
Yeah. I like the Christmas aspect.
Oh, yeah. I feel like
I'm
because
obsessed
the Christmas
with
thing is kind of at the center. I always thought the family aspect of it was at the center of it all.
Yes.
And Christmas was like the thing that's like bonds the family stuff together. You know what I mean? Because you could make this as a Halloween movie. You know what I mean? Take a place like during Halloween and stuff, but would it have the same effect? Would it help or hurt the characters therein? But having it center it in Christmas is a way to go, especially for the family aspect of it. 100%.
Yes, it's like the ultimate holiday for children.
Yeah. Yes, totally.
And
yeah.
Given that the movie is so much about childhood and Sandy is this 5-year-old kid trapped in an adult's body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought the Christmas was smart specifically because of the idea of family.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really that's where you can see the contours of a family's dynamic, for better or worse. That's a time-honored tradition to show how Christmas or even Thanksgiving is this pressure cooker for drama. I think of movies like Krisha, which is like another Austin filmmaker, Trey Edward Schultz's first film.
Okay.
And it's set around Thanksgiving, and it's like one of the best family dramas I've ever seen. It's an incredible movie. If nobody's ever seen it, I think it came out in 2015. And again, just very actor centric, and it's about showing up to Thanksgiving, but that just becomes the lens of how we examine this family.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Jon, for hanging out with us and talking about American Dollhouse.
It's a pleasure.
I can't wait for people to watch it. Honestly.
It was an excellent film.
It's a lot of fun.
I loved watching it. I thought it was very fit for South by, very fit for Austin. And it was a pleasure being able to see the Austin film fam come together for this film and just be like, go Texas.
I know. Yeah.
Yes.
It can be done. It can be done.
100%.
Yes.
I keep telling everybody in LA that every day. I'm like, you don't understand. I was like, Austin has very talented filmmakers. I was like, I love Austin, and Austin. I like Austin. Yeah, I miss it so much. Everybody knows. Yeah.
Sorry, Jon. We've been talking on this podcast. Like, she talks mad shit about LA all the time. It's just not Austin. It's just nothing compared to Austin.
Yes. I've heard these thoughts from time to time.
Yes. So, can't wait.
I get it though. I totally get it. And sometimes Austin infuriates me. It's
oh, for sure.
Location
Traffic infuriates
isn't
me
always
in Austin. It's like, gone worse every year.
Exactly. So it's not without its warts here and there, but I do love it here, and I love these people. It's become my home. I think I'll be here for the time being, but you know, you never know. We live in strange times, and Texas is a interesting state.
It really is.
State of affairs.
The state itself is interesting, but Austin itself is amazing. And at least you guys have supposedly pumped some tax credits and some film credits, and hopefully that's going to help shepherd even more work over there.
It's gotta work a little faster.
These crews working.
The incentives got to work a little faster. Just say it. Just say it.
I would agree. Yeah.
No, but thank you so much, Jon, for coming on the podcast. This was a lot of fun. You got to come back again for the next possible
for your next
creature
film,
feature.
Hopefully, for your creature feature, I'd love to watch it. Yes.
I would love to.
Yeah, and you know what time it is, ladies and gentlemen. It's housekeeping time, baby.
All right, we're gonna do that.
Get Reelisms
Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen. Pick up your books.
For coming.
Get your teas like these.
Yes, this is the place where you can learn about films and what to do or what not to do, really. Keep making your films.
Learn from our mistakes.
Learn from people like Jon. And our stories, and be inspired and make movies.